The cafe went quiet the second Emma Blake said, "Sit closer." Daniel Harper froze with his coffee halfway to his lips. Outside, Chicago traffic rushed past like nothing important was happening. But inside that small corner cafe, everything felt sharp and dangerous. He hadn't expected to hear those words, not from her, not after a year of silence. He slowly pulled his chair closer to Emma's. Their shoulders nearly touched. The space between them felt smaller than it should have been, like it remembered them. This meeting was not supposed to feel like this. Emma stared straight ahead at the window, her reflection mixing with Daniel's in the glass. Her heart was pounding, but her face stayed calm. She had practiced calm. She had practiced this moment. Many nights, lying awake, telling herself she just needed honesty. Nothing more. Daniel cleared his throat. "You look the same," he said, then immediately regretted it. Emma smiled faintly. "You don't." He laughed softly, unsure. "Guess life does that." They hadn't seen each other since the night everything broke apart. Since the argument that never really ended, only paused. Back then, they had promised space, time, distance, all the right words people say when they're scared of the truth. Now here they were. The cafe smelled like coffee and warm bread. Soft music played in the background. It should have felt normal. It didn't. Daniel shifted in his seat. "You said this would be quick." "It will be," Emma replied. Her voice was steady, but inside, memories rushed fast. Late-night talks. Long drives, almost kisses they pretended were accidents. They had never crossed a clear line, but they had lived right on the edge of one. Daniel glanced around, then back at her. "So why does this feel heavy?" Emma finally turned to him. Their eyes met, and for a second, the past felt close enough to touch because some feelings don't fade, she thought. They just learn how to wait. She took a slow breath. "Before we talk," she said, "I need you to know something." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Okay, she's coming." He frowned. "Who's coming?" Emma looked down at her hands, then back up. "Lauren." The name landed hard. Daniel leaned back slightly, as if the chair could protect him. "Your text said she couldn't make it." "I said she was running late." Silence dropped between them. Not awkward, heavy. Daniel rubbed his face. "Emma, what is this?" "This is me not hiding anymore." He let out a short breath. "You always do this?" he said. "Not angry, just tired. You wait until I'm here, until I can't walk away." Emma nodded. "I know, and I'm sorry, but she deserves the truth." "And so do you." Daniel looked toward the door, then back at Emma. "You could have said this on the phone." "No," she said quietly. This needed to be real. Their knees brushed again. Neither moved. A year ago, Daniel had chosen Lauren because she was safe, kind, clear about what she wanted. Emma had been complicated, emotional, full of questions he didn't know how to answer. But he had never stopped thinking about Emma. Not during long drives, not when he laughed with Lauren, not when he imagined the future he was supposed to want. "What do you want from me?" Daniel asked. Emma hesitated. The honest answer scared her. "I want the truth," she said. "Not comfort, not excuses. Just the truth." Daniel swallowed. He had come here thinking this was closure. A friendly coffee, a chapter finally ending. Now he wasn't so sure. "Emma," he began, then stopped. The cafe door opened. Cold air rushed in. Someone laughed near the counter. Daniel's eyes snapped to the entrance. Emma noticed. "She's not here yet." Emma said softly. He exhaled. "You shouldn't have done this. I know." "Then why did you—" Emma turned fully toward him. "Because I spent a year pretending I was fine. Pretending what we had didn't matter. And it did. It still does." Daniel stared at her. His voice dropped. "That's not fair." "No," Emma agreed. "It's not." He ran a hand through his hair. "I'm with her now, I know." "Then why bring this up?" Emma's chest tightened. Because unfinished things don't disappear. They follow you. Daniel looked away. Outside, people hurried down the sidewalk, unaware that a decision was forming in the quiet between two people who had loved each other the wrong way at the wrong time. "You were the one who walked away," he said. Emma nodded. "'Cause you wouldn't choose." Daniel flinched. The words hit because they were true. Back then, he had asked for time. Emma had waited and waited until waiting started to feel like losing herself. "I didn't want to hurt anyone," Daniel said. "And now?" Emma asked. He didn't answer. She placed her hand on the table between them. Close enough to feel, not close enough to touch. "You don't have to say anything right now." Daniel looked down at her hand. His fingers twitched. "You can move," she added, "if you want." He stayed where he was. It scared him more than anything. "You look happy," Daniel said suddenly. Emma smiled sadly. "Well, I learned how to look that way." The door opened again. A woman stepped inside, shaking rain from her coat. Daniel glanced up, tense, then relaxed when he realized it wasn't Lauren. "How long until she gets here?" he asked. "Any minute." His heart started racing. He hadn't expected to face this so directly. He had told Lauren that Emma was part of his past. A friend, someone he once cared about. It's not someone who still knew exactly how to pull him back into his own thoughts. "Emma," he said, lowering. His voice, "If she hears this the wrong way, she won't," Emma interrupted. "I'm not here to take anything from her." "Then what are you here to do?" Emma held his gaze. "End something properly." Daniel closed his eyes for a second. When he opened them, there was something raw there. "I never meant to keep you in the middle," he said. "I know," Emma replied. "But you did." The music changed. Cups clinked. Life kept moving. Daniel leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "If she asks me, she will," Emma said. He nodded slowly, and if the answer hurt someone, Emma's voice softened. "Then at least it won't be a lie." Another rush of cold air filled the cafe as the door opened again. This time, Daniel didn't need to look. Emma straightened slightly and whispered, "She's here." Daniel's chest tightened. The past, the present, and the future were about to sit at the same table. And whatever happened next would change all three of them. The cafe door opened and Lauren Mitchell stepped inside, her coat damp from the cold rain outside. She scanned the room with a practiced smile, her eyes immediately landing on Daniel and Emma. For a brief moment, she hesitated, as if sensing the tension in the air, before moving toward the table. Emma's heart beat faster, but she stayed calm, letting Lauren approach. This was the moment she had been dreading and preparing for all at once. "Sorry I'm late," Lauren said, shedding her coat and letting the wet sleeves drip slightly onto the floor. "Traffic was worse than I expected." "No worries," Emma replied with a calm tone that hid the storm inside her. "We were just catching up." Daniel stood up automatically, unsure whether to hug Lauren or simply nod. He chose the hug, brief and careful, as if testing boundaries he wasn't sure he wanted to cross. Lauren smiled politely, but Emma noticed the subtle flicker in her eyes when she saw how close Daniel was sitting to Emma. They all sat down. And for a few moments, the conversation stayed on neutral ground. Lauren spoke about her new job, her plans for the weekend, her recent travels. Daniel nodded along, offering polite questions, his mind clearly elsewhere. Emma listened, watching him struggle to appear engaged. She could feel his tension, the almost imperceptible shifts in his posture, the tapping of his foot under the table. Finally, Lauren turned her gaze toward Emma, a subtle challenge in her eyes. "So," she said lightly, "you asked me here for a reason." Emma met her gaze steadily. "I did." Daniel swallowed, realizing this was the part he hadn't anticipated. He had expected a casual coffee. Instead, the woman he was with now was about to hear a truth he had tried to hide for a year. "I asked you both here because I needed honesty." Emma continued, her voice calm but firm. "Daniel and I have a history. One that didn't end cleanly. One that stayed with both of us." Lauren blinked. "You told me she was just a friend." She was, Daniel said immediately. And maybe more than that. But I never knew how to explain it. Emma held Lauren's gaze. I didn't bring you here to interfere or to cause trouble. I brought you here so there would be no lies left between us. For both of us. Lauren processed the words, her posture shifting slightly. There was no immediate anger. No dramatic outburst. Just quiet understanding mixed with cautious observation. And what do you want now? She asked. Emma didn't glance at Daniel. Her voice was steady. I want the truth. From him, for all of us. Daniel took a deep breath, closing his eyes briefly before meeting Emma's gaze again. The weight of the past year pressed on him. He had tried to move on, to make choices that were safe and reasonable. But nothing had erased the memory of Emma or the moments they had shared. I chose safety, he began, his voice low and honest. I chose what made sense. But I never stopped thinking about what I lost, about what I gave up. Lauren's expression softened. She leaned back slightly, listening without judgment, absorbing the weight of his words. And now? She asked. Daniel's eyes shifted to Emma. There was a depth there she hadn't seen in months. Now, I know that wondering isn't fair to anyone. Not to you, not to her, not to me. Emma's chest tightened, a mixture of relief and lingering pain. She had expected this confrontation to feel like a wound reopening. Instead, it felt like clarity, sharp, bittersweet, but clear. Lauren exhaled slowly, a small, almost imperceptible smile forming. Thank you, she said softly. Not for the choice he would make, but for the truth he had finally spoken. Daniel glanced between them. Seeing how the honesty had shifted the energy in the room, there was no malice, no jealousy, just recognition of the past and acceptance of the present. I didn't come here to create chaos, Emma said, her voice calm but gentle. I came here because I couldn't carry this silence anymore. It was heavier than anything I could ignore. Daniel nodded, understanding more than words could express. I'm sorry, he said, addressing Emma directly. I should have been honest before. Emma shook her head slightly. No, we're here now, and that matters more than before. I just needed you to say it out loud. For a few moments, the three of them sat in silence. Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving the streets glistening under the city lights. The cafe felt warmer somehow, as if honesty had made space for a new beginning, if it wasn't the one anyone had expected. Daniel stood, collecting his coat. I need to figure out my next steps, he said quietly. For both of you, for me, I can't live in the past anymore. Emma stood as well, brushing imaginary crumbs from her coat. She felt lighter than she had in months. Saying the words, confronting the truth, facing Laurenette had been terrifying, but it had also freed her. Lauren smiled again, a mixture of understanding and respect. I appreciate that, she said. More than you know. The three of them exchanged a few more polite words before stepping outside into the crisp evening air. Daniel lingered for a moment, looking between Emma and Lauren. I hope you both know how much I care, he said. Emma smiled softly. I know. They parted ways with no dramatic gestures, no shouting, no tears. Just quiet acknowledgement of the past, the present, and the choices they had made, as Emma walked away. The city lights reflecting off the wet streets, she realized something profound. Telling Daniel to sit closer had not been about reigniting old feelings. It had been about honesty, closure, and finally letting go. Her steps felt lighter, freer. She no longer carried the weight of unspoken words or hidden truths. The encounter hadn't been easy, but it had been necessary. Daniel watched her disappear into the crowd, understanding finally that love, in its truest form, sometimes meant releasing someone with grace instead of holding on. Lauren walked beside him now, hand in hand. Yet there was no tension, only clarity. For Emma, the day had been about courage, about facing the past without fear, about recognizing that some chapters close not with drama, but with dignity and truth. And as she disappeared into the night, she felt a sense of peace that had eluded her for too long. The city hummed around her. People rushing by, lives continuing, but inside, Emma carried a quiet satisfaction. She had faced the hardest truth of her life, and she had done it with strength and grace. She had spoken, and in speaking, she had been heard. And sometimes she realized that was enough. The cafe door swung closed behind them, leaving empty chairs and unfinished coffee behind, a silent testament to the complicated, messy, beautiful ways people navigate love, honesty, and the lives they choose. Emma took a deep breath, feeling the cool air fill her lungs. This was a beginning, not an ending. And for the first time in a long while, Phil felt ready to walk forward without looking back. The night had settled over the city, quiet and calm, but her heart was awake, alive and open. The past was acknowledged, the truth was told, and the future was hers to embrace. And somewhere in that moment, she knew she would never be afraid to face the truth again.